morning, peeps. Welcome to another vlog. So today we actually have a service call that we're going to pop out to. I think we have some sort of pipe that burst over the winter time, and we might be replacing a hose bip on this pipe as well. That's one of the difficulties with hose bips. If you do not drain them correctly for the winter time and winterize them, you can end up having a pipe burst. And the last thing that we have to do is go out to a job site where we finished a job, and we're going to have to test the drain to make sure that when the inspector comes in that everything is kosher and good to go. What we'll essentially do is put in this test cap. What this does is it has a little bladder here that you can fill up like a balloon, and it won't allow water to drain, so that you can fill up the drain and make sure that all the joints are not leaking. I gotta do a quick shout out to a plumber that I work with named Andrew. Andrew was the individual that showed me his test caps. It's not exactly like this, but it's the same concept, and it was only under those circumstances that I realized how cool of an idea this actually is. So that's the game plan for today. Peeps, let's get to work. Let's have some fun. Oh, and by the way, peeps, you know what to do, baby. Let's go do some delicious plumbing. Peeps, if you're interested in learning plumbing theory from me, please check out my website, molotovplumbingacademy.com. There you'll find my plumbing math course, and I'm currently in the works of making a beginner's plumbing course as well. Links are in the description. Thanks for the support, and enjoy the rest of the vlog. Alrighty, so I just got to the job site here in the garage. I want to show you what we're looking at. We got this cute little glass boot. I put this here just to make sure that the water was off. This is fully in the open position. Water drain, so there is no water being supplied to the hose bib. Follow this pipe along. Everything looks okay until we reach this section right over here. That, my friends, is a burst pipe. So what happens is when water is inside here and we get to freezing temperatures, the water starts to freeze, it expands, and upon expansion, you get these ugly little things. There's not just one though. Follow this a little bit further, you can see another one right over here as well. It actually pops out as well. So if we take a look, you're gonna notice that there are a couple of couplings here. So I'm under the impression that this is a common thing that takes place here. A couple of things that need to happen. I will be replacing this section of pipe right here, just a small little thing. It looks like it's about a foot and a half long, nothing too crazy right there. But we need to talk to the homeowner about proper maintenance in the winter time so that they don't have this happen again. It looks like the pipe itself has a good amount of slope in it, so I'm not too worried about the slope. The slope looks okay. It's just about maintaining it correctly, draining it out before the winter time comes, basically, and the freezing temperatures come. The next thing that we have to do right now is just verify we don't have anything flammable in the area. Anytime you're in a garage, you're worried about any sort of gasolines or oils or anything like that, because this is typically where we do our filling up of our lawnmowers, trucks, our cars. So it looks like everything's okay. We just got to come in, cut a small section, do some soldering, and we're good to go. Let's go do some delicious plumbing. Alright, so I just want to show you what my game plan is, okay? I already had this pre-cut tiny piece of copper right here. It's about a foot in length. And what we're going to see here is, I'm just lining it up to see if it catches both of the bursts here. And what you'll notice is you have one burst over here, and the second one is right over here where my finger is. So this length actually covers the majority of what we need right here. So it covers that, follow it across, and it catches the center of this coupling right here. I'm gonna actually sweat this coupling out. I'm gonna cut this little piece out right here, and I'm gonna cut out this entire section, and it makes it nice and clean. We clean up this second coupling here, and we'll put it a little bit further down. The biggest difficulty in this situation is not burning the drywall, which is right behind it. Whoever was soldering before had done a burn before, and we're gonna have the same issue because it hugs the wall, you know what I'm saying? So it's just something to keep in mind. We're gonna do our best, but it's a difficult location, and I don't have my heat cloth here, so that's one of the downsides to not having your heat cloth. Either way, we're gonna make the best of it. Let's go. So peeps, you're about to watch me sweat out a fitting. Now, sweating out a fitting, for those of you that don't know, is the process of reheating solder so that it melts, and once it does melt, you usually can remove the fitting that was once attached. There are a couple of scenarios that make this really difficult though. Sometimes as a plumber, we crimp fittings to keep them from falling or rotating, but when you sweat those fittings out, they come out really painfully. Unfortunately, from my experience, you'll just have to muscle your way through that and pull them out. There hasn't been anything that I've noticed that's on the market that can make that a bit easier. Other times, the pipe has a little bit of water on the inside, so you have to really heat that pipe up to sweat the fitting out, but it ends up overheating. An overheated fitting will usually turn very, very dark, and when that happens, fittings don't really comply the way they normally do when they're not overheated. So what I try to do in those situations, I try to make some sort of incision on the pipe so that we can drain that water out and then sweat the fitting out after that. Lastly, sometimes you have a constant trickle of water coming through the pipe because whatever valve is shutting off the water to get there is actually not holding fully, so that means water is bypassing this valve. There are a couple of ways that you can sort this situation out. One way is replacing the valve altogether, or you use a tool designed to temporarily block the inside of the pipe like a jet sweat. I hope this information is helpful to you. So I just want to show you a concept really quickly. Remember how I was saying I was worried about burning the wall? What I ended up doing was finding out if I can actually wedge something between the wall and the pipe, just for a brief period of time while I'm soldering. That way I can bring the torch off of the wall and just heat up the pipe all by itself. So I ended up managing to wedge something back here and also something back there as well. We want to make sure it's wedged from both ends. That way the pipe, when it does finally solder, it will not solder at a weird angle where one side protrudes out and the other one protrudes in. So by doing that, we should hopefully be able to just push it back in once we finish the soldering, and that way we avoid burning the wall. It doesn't work in every situation because sometimes you can't take the pipe off the wall whatsoever, but in this situation it seems to actually work. I'm going to throw on the torch. We're going to do a little bit of soldering. One more thing that I want to point out is when soldering, if you don't have two gloves, I tend to use only my left hand with a glove. And the reason why that is because whenever you have to lengthen the solder during soldering, it's your left hand that does it, and the tip of the solder is usually hot by then. So you tend to burn the tips of your fingers by touching the end of the solder to create that curve that we use. If you need to use one hand, always throw it on the left hand. That's what works for me. If you're left hand dominant though, I assume everything is in the opposite hand, so you would switch accordingly. Hope that made sense. Let's go. Alright, turns out we actually have one more area of bursts. Take a look here. Follow this pipe underneath. Look, if you go this way, ba-bam, there's one. Keep following. You got ba-bam. Two right there. That's the second one right here. So, got another section to go. Thankfully, I got enough pipe. This one's a bit longer. Okay, but you know what? While we're here, let's get that done. Alright, just want to show you something quickly. I want to show you where I opted to cut it, okay? I'm going to sweat this small piece out and I cut it in between the two joists. Here's what you have to realize. Another strategy in regards to not burning wood is cutting and soldering in a place where there's no wood. So in other words, there's an open cavity behind this. By cutting it here, I'm okay to solder now and the flame is not directly in the way of any of the wood that's in the area. And the same here, I'm going to sweat this out and it's in between the two joists. I can move this to the side so we don't put any of that at risk, or I could take it out, but by putting a fitting inside a cavity, we now avoid the awkward situation of having to put a flame near wood. So take a look at this. One burst right there, and one burst right there. Two bursts side by side. I always approach soldering as a game of patience. Thoroughness has always proven to be the most consistent strategy when dealing with old pipes especially. That means the things that slow you down have to come first and foremost in this situation. So you have to clean as best as you can, or solder will not stick to the pipe. You have to thoroughly paste each fitting and each pipe so that solder will easily flow through the fitting. You have to make sure that all the variables you can control are prepped for success. Every time I've rushed through this process, I ended up paying for it exponentially. You lose 2 to 3 times the amount of time than you would have if you just slowed down at the beginning and been as thorough as possible with your cleaning. You are trading time for smoothness. And once you do start soldering, it's a matter of heating the fitting at a reasonable pace with a medium heat. Kind of like food, if the heat you introduce is too hot at the beginning, you could run into certain issues. You can overheat the fitting, which means that it turns very dark. And upon overheating a fitting when you're trying to solder, it will not actually take solder the way you'd normally expect it to. That oxidization process ends up kind of shooting you in the foot. So now what you have to do is cool down the fitting, throw on a little bit more paste, clean it off so that it will allow you to put more solder into the fitting. Instead of getting into that situation, turn down the heat and have it heat up slowly. By heating it up slowly, you are able to also be on top of the amount of solder you want to introduce to the fitting, and you're not going to run into any of these issues I expressed.
Okay, just got to the job site. I want to talk you through what's the game plan. So again, like I showed you earlier, got this bladder. What we're gonna do is fill this up to 35 PSIG. I ended up buying an M12 Milwaukee air pump basically, which should be able to tell me what PSI it's filling up to. We're gonna be filling up this drain right here all the way up to the top. We gotta move this first and get it done. Let's go. Alrighty, so as you see, both the drains are filled up right now. We're essentially going to leave it like this so that the inspector can come and see that everything is watertight and holding comfortably. It took me a while to figure out the pump and also this bladder, but I think I finally got it. Peeps, thanks for watching. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button down below and that bell notification so you know exactly when we're getting videos. Smash that thumbs up, share with friends, and I'll see you plumbers very soon. Kenny Molotov, guys. Peace, baby.